and welcome to the Reloading Podcast. My name is Beard, or Bisa. I'll be your host for today, and I am joined with my co-host.
Nitodork, I am a dog.
The Dork? The Nitodork?
Yeah.
That is a Nito and a Dork.
Both at the same time.
Both of this. Yeah, you're not going to see that very often, like, honestly. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so... welcome to Reloading. This is a bit of an experiment we're doing. I don't think there really are that many, or any GFL podcasts for that matter.
Nope.
The only thing that would like remotely enter my mind would be 404 Radio, and that was more just
that
like
barely counts.
that barely counts. Yeah, that was mostly like a
I think that was a
fan
fanfiction
series.
event.
Yeah, it's more a fanfic series than a podcast, an actual podcast.
Yep.
So this is something we're trying now. No matter where you're listening to this, you've probably found it through one of our Twitter profiles, but everything is down in the description. All the social media channels for the podcast are down there, as well as our own. So feel free to follow us on whichever platforms of those you are using. In the meantime, again, just a bit more housekeeping. You will be able to listen to every new episode of this podcast one day early over on thefield.net. That's the-field.net. Just as a bit of a way for you to be able to enjoy it in a way that we can guarantee is ad-free. So, for this first episode, we will be going... Actually, I forgot to talk about the fact that we will be doing this either bi-weekly or monthly from now on, or from whenever you're seeing the first episode. Which means that from the date of recording this, the next episode will be shortly after Shattered Connection starts.
Yep.
So... yeah, that'll be our either... If you're hearing this like 3 years after we started this podcast, then that will be the first episode. If not, that'll be the second one, the next one. So anyways, today we just want to talk a bit about, just introduce ourselves a bit as GFL players, who we are, how we got into the game, and a bit of questioning here,
Some trivia.
a bit of interrogation, if you will.
Yes, the good stuff.
So, yeah, we're just kind of going to start with how we got into the game, and I will leave you to that first. I will give you first passage.
GFL was a mobile, it's a mobile game obviously, and I found out about it by playing a lot of other mobile games that are really bad. Saw it on the Play Store, looked cool, thought to myself, hey, I should check this out, maybe it's good. Heard the story was good, it is good, and there we are. I think it started around Operation Cube near the end, so no Hoxie for me.
F.
And I also didn't farm much there. I think I only took it serious once Arctic Warfare I fucked up.
Man, Arctic Warfare was something else.
Yeah, I fucked up Arctic, and then I was like, holy shit, I should take this game serious.
Arctic Warfare was Arctic Warfare was a gauntlet. Like that shit was like the first time where the game like genuinely challenged me.
Yeah,
and in the end I just
chapter
kinda got
2.
by just throwing everything I had at it. Which I will concede that's something that the game has been doing a lot better, like more recently. I'm not a big fan of like the CE bloating and shit like what we had in the Gunslinger Girl event or stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that, but there are a lot of things now that actually need strategy, which is quite nice.
Yep.
If it wasn't for stuff like theater, where you end up with things like Core 8, where you basically need an M200. Like that's the kind of shit that I don't like, because once you take away options from the strategy, it just becomes boring again. But anyways, that was already a bit of a tangent of a negative rant, which is fantastic. Have to get used to that. I like to be critical of the things I enjoy, so you'll have to get used to that a bit. I try not to go too hard on things. So, anyways, so yeah, about getting into GFL, I started like back a year or a year and a half before EN launched. I think it was like it was about a year when on another Discord server from the Symphogear community that I was on, someone just started like sharing artwork that was like playing more mobile games than me, or just part of the mobile game crowd on that server. They started just sharing artwork for GFL, like the Cube promotional one that they used as promo artwork for EN from the beginning with UMP 40, like with 45 in the background, foreground. And they like shared doll profiles and everything, and I was like, yo, this actually kind of looks sick. Like all these girls' guns, it's not like too like their designs aren't really pandering. It's like actually well-designed characters. This exists in this industry. Like this was
Yeah, it's strange. Like GFL characters look fucking casual. It's nice.
If you look at other games, like I would actually say that like Food Fantasy also does really well with its designs, even though I've mostly dropped it by now. Its character designs are amazing. Like if you ever want like a bit of diversity in your mobile gaming life, I genuinely recommend you check out Food Fantasy. It's not the fairest of all games. It's actually pretty fast-paced and relatively pay-to-win, but PvP isn't exactly a big thing in there. And just the character design, it's not also the most well-made game or very polished or super like innovative in its gameplay. It's just a simple auto fighter. It's an auto battler, but the characters are so cool. Like the designs, they make it worth all on their own. Anyways,
I think with GFL designs, the appeal for me is just I think like 90% or more, just hyperbole probably. You can imagine people walking around in those clothes in real life and it wouldn't look weird.
Yeah.
Like the UMP jackets, for example, they look super good. And that's kind of what appeals to me.
Cool.
Like you have your exceptions, but most of the time they're just nice looking clothing.
Yeah. I thought you mentioned an example. But yeah, so anyways, I just thought like, yeah, these are some really neat character designs and everything, and like I got really into the idea because I also started hearing, of course, oh, it has a really good story and everything. And I was like, at the time I was living on my own. I had just like dropped out of my training, or I hadn't dropped out, I had to stop. That's a story for another time. And I was like, yeah, I'll play the closed beta. Everyone here seems to be really excited about this, so fuck it, I'm a play it, and I got in. I still actually have that account, it's just not played on, because at launch I made a new account for whatever reason. I think I couldn't log in on my beta account with Twitter for some odd like server problem there was. But yeah, I logged in the closed beta and I was like instantly hooked. Like the menu was super nice. Of course, the music, the fucking main menu music. Do you remember when you first heard the the login screen and the main menu?
Kind of. I think the main menu, the music itself, didn't really stand out to me up until Singularity. Like that PV music, holy shit.
You mean what were we fighting for?
No, the PV music, not the ED music. I think the name for it is Collapse Point. Oh. It's the one that plays in the trailer.
I don't know. I don't remember the trailer, dude.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't actually watch the trailers usually.
I do.
The only one I've really seen, like the one I only I've probably seen other ones, but the only one I remember seeing is Dual Randomness. But yeah, I was pretty much immediately hooked because like the gameplay was interesting. The collection aspect immediately got me. This was like my first real mobile game that I played, so it's also my gateway, which is always a good thing to be able to say of something, because that just means it's able to deliver to the point where it opens up an entirely new medium for you. And that's like always like really high praise in my book.
It's kind of similar for me with GFL. Like I started taking mobile games a bit more serious.
Yeah.
The only issue is now that most games have to compare it against GFL for me at time, and it's like, oh well, you're fucked.
I've felt that being an issue. Like even with like actually really good competitors like Genshin and Arknights, it's just missing that pizzazz that the absolutely fucking insane story of GFL brings.
Yep,
because
kind of
GFL has managed to bring the like tertiary gameplay cycle, the long-time motivation of a story, like experiencing a good story that was previously mostly exclusive to like indies or VNs or AAA games in general, like long-form AAA games or MMOs, whatever, to the mobile market. And
not only that, it's on top of that
usually not work, because usually mobile games just sit on their meta game, like their secondary gameplay loop, being really, really, really good. And that's something I can, for example, see with Arknights. Arknights' meta game is fantastic. It's a bit grindy, but it's really fucking good, and so is Genshin's. It just gets quite repetitive for both of them.
Yeah,
and that's where they both fall flat for me, because there's nothing to like keep that repetitiveness down, like keep me motivated to push through that. Arknights has mostly alleviated that by making contingency contracts seasonal, because now it's always something to look forward to. There's something coming up. The last big chapter release for Arknights is like, I would say it's a year back, but the game isn't even that old. It was like at the beginning of the year. It was like at the beginning of the year the game released. God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. The last time that the actual story, the main storyline of GFL was updated, is pretty long ago. And for GFL, every operation is a new story expansion. You don't have to wait for new chapters to come out. Now, for Arknights, for example, you still have events, like what we recently had. We had Twilight of Volumonda. Or at the very beginning, the first event was Grani and the Knight's Treasure, which are events that expand the story, like give a different point of view or a different perspective through the character's lens. But again, they don't progress the main story. It's mostly world building, which isn't bad either. But it kind of fails to engage in the same kind of way that GFL pairs its story and its like even its meta progression, due to the fact that some mods are story locked. Like that's a huge deal. The fact that you can only that some mods are only released once they are actually introduced in the story, which I think it should still be a limitation. That's something I would change in GFL, to actually put progress limitation on story mods, so that you will have to start Singularity to be able to mod M4.
Oh yeah, that's
and
fair.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Like you have to start Shattered Connection to mod 416. That kind of stuff. Actually lock story mods behind their events even when they're in campaign, which does mean that events that currently aren't in campaign won't have their mods available for those that haven't played during the event, but I think that's a trade-off for one, spoilers, and two, balance, because many story mods are really broken.
Yep. One thing is, speaking of the story of GFL, what's probably important to note is the story is really fucking good, not just in terms of mobile games, but in general.
Yeah,
like,
in general.
It's really hard to find such a good story, and one thing that they excel at is events. Like, sometimes you hear about events and you're like, oh, well, it's maybe not so much, and then they bombard you with like 8 hours of story material or something like that. It's crazy
no
good.
game does that. I haven't seen a single like maybe I mean Arknight's events, like I said, they do have some nice additional story. Like, I would say that Obsidian Festival, which was like Arknight's big summer event, that actually had a really good story. It wasn't like amazingly written, or like, it was actually pretty predictable, like its central conflict and everything. It was predictable as all hell, but it was just really fun. It was that perfect blend of self-aware and self-indulgent that I personally really enjoy. And on top of that, of course, you have, with that specific event, you have the island vibes, and you have this, like, just this festival kind of air around it, and everything is themed about it. You have the, like, farming stages that are, like, festival attractions and shit like that, or use the mechanics in really clever ways to disguise as such, and all kinds of cool shit like that. But nothing hits to the point of GFL, just because GFL also just brings forward its main story campaign so much with every event. Like,
take for example Singularity.
That, like
Singularity, that shit was massive. Like, holy fuck.
This is something I want to say though. This is something I genuinely want to say though, because like a lot of veterans, like CN veterans, and I will specifically call out Seiya on this, has said like, oh, it's like Mika have been trying so hard to like recapture the magic of Singularity. No, I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. I do see how Singularity was a turning point, both for the game, like in a actual like in a sense of reception and doing well in general. Like, Singularity was a huge turning point for the game economically, and for the story, of course, together with Chapter 10. But I don't feel that it was the best the stories was at.
No,
I genuinely like Isomer. I don't like Continuum Turbulence a lot.
I actually loved Continuum Turbulence.
Continuum Turbulence, of course you did.
Hey, I love the interpersonal character relationships of Diego, for example. Like, that shit is Chapter 3. The entire hunt down of Ange is so fucking good story-wise or emotionally. Like, it's some of the best shit.
Like, the thing with Continuum Turbulence, I feel like a lot of they had a lot of ideas and they wanted to include it all, so they had fail states, of course. That's the like best way I can really think about it. Was they just had too many ideas to work into the event, so they just said, fuck it, let's do all of them, and then worked out one route that was the true route.
I mean, it's, kind of, but it also fits like the entire interrogation aspect of Continuum Turbulence, that you're being asked questions and you have to answer, and like, obviously you spice and lies to waste time for the Nitos.
Well, yeah. Like, that's the thing, that
like the integration of that is great.
Concept, I'm almost certain arose from just too many ideas having to be worked into this event.
That might be the
like,
case.
I'm not slamming it for this. Like, that's it's just like an observation.
It's kind of like oh hey, this is why this happened, but the execution is still good. Kind of deal for me.
Yeah, it's an amazing event. Absolutely. I just think so. It falls a bit below the bar of Singularity. because just due to the fact, the way that the layout of everything, the way that some of the maps are just, for one, bone-breakingly hard. Pun not intended. But it's also that
I detach
a lot
map difficulty from the story itself. Like, if the map is difficult, I will still enjoy the story.
Yeah, of course. My problem is with Continuum Turbulence was that a lot of my favorite story beats were in the wrong paths. So none of those are true. Like,
yikes.
From the beginning, I was all like, it's a bit ironic because, of course, 404 were the first characters that introduced me to the game through like the pictures I was shown, but I hate 404's characters. I hate them so much. Like, it's not a love-hate relationship. I just hate them. They're just a bunch of ragtag assholes.
See, I have the benefit of actually liking Jaeger a lot, so there you go.
I mean, Jaeger is amazing.
Yeah, and having the gunpoint seen as like the highlight of Continuum Turbulence is like, fuck
yeah,
this.
Yeah, I'll give you that. As much as I like Row and Sup, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I like Continuum so much is, holy shit, do they cash out on Singularity so much. Like, all this build-up. They cash out on Singularity so fucking much there.
Oh, yeah.
All this build-up, etc. Then you go into into Continuum, and it's just
they just carry it.
God, that feels good.
They carry it over so well. Because Singularity and Chapter 10 were such a huge heel turn. But they just carry that momentum so well. That's something I will totally give to Continuum Turbulence.
Yeah, like I said, Continuum is probably my favorite because of that reason.
But going through what I was saying, my problem with Continuum Turbulence, or specifically in this case with the G&K part with Chapter 2, I think, was, god damn it, I hate 404 so much. I don't care about them. I just, again, they're just a ragtag team of a bunch of assholes.
404 is,
but
it depends.
Their chapter,
yeah, 404 has some good ones. Like
their chapter in Continuum. Sorry, I'm talking over you. But their chapter in Continuum Turbulence actually made me care about them. But the parts that made me care about them the most were the ones on the fucking lie routes.
Honestly,
oh my god, why do you only humanize these characters when the commander needs to fucking stall?
Oh yeah, that's nice. I think one of the issues with 404 is that it's basically just 45 and the others. Because 45's characterization, especially in the mod stories, for example.
I mean, yeah, that's given with her involvement in the butterfly incident.
Yeah.
Like, she's younger, she's older than all the other dolls in here, except for maybe 416.
It's honestly why I hope Shattered Connection focuses a bit even more on them, which I think might be the case.
Yeah, given that UMP and 416 both get a mod, I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yep. Which I'm really excited for.
I am really excited for Shattered Connection, which is why it's going to be our next episode if this is what you're seeing, which at this point probably you will be.
Yep.
But yeah, like, Shattered Connection... Continuum Turbulence isn't exactly my favorite, but what is my favorite is, like, so far, hands down, Isomer. Because holy shit, Isomer is good.
Yep, Isomer was amazing.
Like,
I think,
that's the thing. I don't get what you mean, like what people mean when they mention the magic of Singularity. I get it. It was a big moment. It was a big time for GFL, but looking at only the story and being like in the warm embrace of EN being spoiled to hell and back before JP took over that flag. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't see any magic in Singularity. I just see a really fucking good turning point for a really fucking good story. Yeah, and then I see Continuum Turbulence. Then I see Continuum Turbulence carrying that momentum, and Isomer just fucking launching it in the stratosphere.
That's kind of how I felt
And I'm-
about Continuum.
Again, I'm really excited for Shadow Connection because of that.
Yep, I heard Shadow Connection is like one of the best events ever. Like,
Yeah.
just even another step up.
Yeah.
What else was there? I think Polarized Light, which was met with
Yeah, Polarized Light was mostly met with like mixed reception, and then there's
and Dual Random. I think is Dual Random already finished?
yeah,
or is
Dual
it
Random is
still-
already finished. I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, I've heard good stuff about it.
I've
kind of.
heard
Just
generally lukewarm reception, so it's not bad, like poorly received, but not like hugely positively either.
yeah.
It does
I feel
have
like,
Defiant Suits, which is hot as fuck, but let's not get too horny on episode 1 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, wow, that was a good, big fucking tangent.
I mean, the most challenging was also Arknights.
That was
But yeah.
big fucking tangent. We were going to go through a list of questions here.
Oh,
To
yeah, we
just
did.
to
We
just
went
introduce
to-
ourselves as players a bit, but we already talked a lot about how we feel about GFL, but we will go through this anyways.
Yep.
So let's just start at the top here. We do have a bit of a preparation here. So our first 5-star doll. What was yours?
Should be Thompson.
Thompson.
So your typical.
I think Thompson was actually my first as well on my actual account. But on my closed beta account, it was actually Vector, who, from my main, it took me, I think, like 1.5 years to pull her. She was, like, one of my most wanted dolls for a really long time. Which actually brings me to the next question, which is our personal little Hoxie. Because I feel like both of us have been on this for a really long time, so most of the dolls that most people consider Hoxie don't really apply to us. You did say that you didn't get 5.7 because you like started after Trimagic Square, right?
Yeah, but I've got her pretty much this first day she was available.
Yeah,
again,
once she was
so-
available in Singularity.
Yeah, like I have no real Hoxies anymore.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing one shotgun in production, but I don't fucking care about her.
Like from the, it always like over the year it felt like over the year or like, almost 2 years. It was 1.5 years until they reran her in Singularity. Thinking about that makes it sound actually genuinely mad, but like during that time I wasn't like, you guys like, I mean, sorry you weren't here during launch period. This is a bit of an
Yeah.
award at this point, so like. Yeah, suck it. I know she's good. She's a really fucking good handgun. But there's good substitutes as well. So
Yeah,
I was
much-
kind of
as
like
good
that
as
that
5.7 is
smug dick. I was like, yeah, I got one. You can just play with your dinky.
Honestly, I think Hoxie has not. I'm always saying Hoxie to 5.7. 5.7 is like major Hoxie status because at the time of her release she was like really, really fucking good.
Yeah.
But by now you have so much competition for
Yeah,
her.
there are so
that I
many good
genuinely
handguns now.
don't-
She's just
Yeah,
kind of
like-
fallen off a bit. I mean, she's still really good, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
just doesn't have that absolute godlike status she had around launch. Like
Yeah,
in
plus-
doing Cube and Arctic Warfare.
Personally, I'm more into unorthodox T-Duels like Aegis 2000, for example.
Yeah,
Their
which
shields,
Aegis 2000
etc.
or P22.
Yeah, like
Especially P22. Or PX4 Storm as well, even.
yeah, Pix was also great. Should probably could get us into the next topic, which is our favorite dolls.
Yes. Which is your favorite doll? Whichever you want.
Well,
Everyone listening
if
probably already
anyone-
knows the answer, but
Oh yeah, if you
for
know me
both of
before, you
us,
fucking
but
know it
whatever.
already. It's P90.
yeah.
Like with a long shot.
I mean-
like holy shit, she's so much fun.
P90 is a fucking great doll. Absolutely,
Yeah,
aside
I mean,
from
it's-
having one of the, in my opinion, like genuinely one of the best designed, like the best weapons period ever. Like genuinely, in terms of firearms, I think that it's hard to top the P90.
Yep.
Because it is such a compromise machine. And it doesn't actually sacrifice on any of its compromises. It's a
Yeah.
it's a super ergonomic, ambidextrous
Submachine
PDW,
gun?
which at the time
Yeah.
was a completely new concept, a carbine in SMG format. It has some of the most revolutionary, like normal casing and bullet ammo that you can find, and it's just such a refined design. It's such, I think it's such a such a poignant design. It stands out so much. Like it's sci-fi, but it's still distinctly human in nature.
Yeah, and that also kind of carries over to to P90's design herself, like her jacket, hair, buns, everything. Like she just looks fucking good.
I mean, the doll is fucking amazing as well. That design. It's not my.
Yeah, also, it's not your favorite, right?
I mean, she is one of my, like, she's on top. Like she's on high on my list of favorite designs, like doll designs. But then, for example, you have completely over-designed dolls where you just don't see it.
Yeah.
Which my favorite one, I'll have to check her name really quick, because for some reason I don't remember. 4-star ARs, you probably know which one I'm talking about right now. Right, SAR 21. She is so painfully over-designed, even though you don't see it. And I love it. I'll probably go over it in a future episode, not right now, but, like, her design influences are so fucking over the top. Like, all the details, like, all the character details that she draws, like, inspiration from the actual firearm is insane. If you feel like it, hey, maybe go look it up, but I'll probably go over it in a future episode if you, like, go and dissect some doll designs or something. Which is a good idea as well. So let's jot that down. Or for you, my favorite doll, I mean, it's probably fairly obvious, isn't it? Yeah, it's Sup. It's Sup.
Sup was great. Sup was Supper for a reason.
She's pretty much the main character of the game at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Sup is the secret main character, and
she's the shonen protagonist.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I think, one thing I didn't mention with P90 is, holy fuck, her skill is like the most fun ever.
Yeah,
just the ability to fuck around with enemy aiming, etc.
Yeah, her ability is
God
like,
bless.
it's genuine. I genuinely think like she has one of the best SMG skills in the game.
It's not only fun, it's also useful.
Yeah,
that's the best thing about it.
Like, that's the thing, it's not like the strongest, but it's both fun and incredibly useful. Which makes
Plus you can also experiment a lot with it, like using shields on it, or
you can
going
mess
forward,
with it
canceling.
so much.
Yeah, like if you're basically P90 is really recommended if you have fuck ton of luck to get her, and you're into like SMG fuckery. Like,
and of course P90 gave us a really fun launch. Like her doll batch was so fun to see the meltdown from CN. Because, like, again, this was during the phase where EN was getting so fucking spoiled by Sunborn. And during the release write-up for P90's batch, I don't know who else was in there anymore, but basically, if you rolled any, like, for the first time that you rolled any rarity of the new dolls, like once you rolled a 5-star AR, I think there was a 4-star AR, or once you rolled a 5-star SMG, you were guaranteed that, like, the new doll from the batch. So the amount of P90s people drew on raid up day was insane.
Yep, and now the amount of P90s people draw are like fucking zero.
Exactly like they were in CN from the very beginning, because they did, like, the foreign servers, they did not have that, like, even JP did not have that mechanic. And we haven't had it since, because it just broke everything so much. Everybody had a P90, because, like, I mean, obviously not everybody had a P90. I didn't have a P90 for a long time. I had to core mask her.
No, rip.
And then just like 2 days after, I pulled her. As usual, that's just what happens with core masks. But yeah, like So many people just pulled P90s on their first multi, on their first pull in general, just because they were lucky enough to get a 5-star SMG on one of their pulls. So they were guaranteed a P90.
Yep, which is also, I think, when I first saw her, I already wanted her.
I mean, yeah.
Immediately was like, holy shit, I want this fucking squirrel, give me the squirrel.
I think the P90 is one of the best firearms in existence. So I wanted her anyways. Like, once I learned of the fact that there was a P90 in this game, I was like, yeah, I'm getting that. Thank you.
And she looks good.
And yeah,
so
she's an amazing design, absolutely.
The only issue P90 has, in my opinion, is she needs more costumes. Much more. Like, just give me all the costumes. Now, speaking about Suppo, I think she's also like really one of the best ones.
I just like,
because holy shit, her voice lines, my god. Her mod voice lines, especially.
Her mod, like her main
so
menu
good.
voice lines are amazing.
Yep.
Like they get repetitive, especially with like how they're picked. I don't know why, but they like always repeat themselves like 20 fucking times before switching to a new one. For some reason, I don't know how they're picked. You probably want to look into that for the next client update. Would be neat. But god, man, Suppo she just has a lot of so much personality baked into her design.
Yep.
There's not really much to talk about with her, because I mean,
well, she has also a great life today in her mod version. Like, that's also a big plus. Like that smile, the Suppo life today smile. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's I think she's neat. And of course, fucking Renegade. Renegade is amazing. And I actually like that they justified her keeping it in the story.
Oh yeah, the Renegade, yeah.
I just love that they justified her keeping it. Because that just goes to show that they genuinely think a lot about character designs, and especially for story mods, how that impacts the story.
I think one of the aspects that I really like about GFL in terms of management, which is it really feels like some insane fan service type of deal, where like story beats etc. happen like exactly how you'd want them to be, or not always exactly, but you're like, oh yes, fucking finally some soap action, for example.
Yeah. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. But let's continue with our list here, because tangents are fun. Man, this is flowing really well, though. Like, honestly, this is a lot of fun. So yeah, next one, the biggest challenge that you have faced during gameplay.
Well, all right, I'm gonna go with something I think I've brought up earlier in the podcast, but it's Chapter 2 of Arctic Warfare, and it should be map 3 or so.
Let me check really quick.
Because
I do have the game open. Arctic Warfare map, Chapter 2, map 3, Lightning Curfew. 3.
Yeah, something along those lines. It's maybe 3 or 4.
It was one of the night maps.
Yeah, the issue was I had barely any night equip, and I did not have much of a 5 link to it.
Oh, it was the one with the the third one was the one with the random nodes littered in the bottom right, in the bottom left.
Yeah, should be the one,
HQ. Yeah. That one sucked already in main, like in the first chapter. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, but if you're under leveled, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I think the issue was I tried it out, I screwed it up, and by that point I didn't really read. I think it was like, wait, how was it best? I think it was that I've didn't do much on Operation Cube. I then read the story up to chapter 6 or so. Yeah, chapter 6 and 7. I was hooked since chapter 5, like really hooked since chapter 5. Chapter 6 was like, holy shit, that's really fucking good now.
Yeah, chapter 6 really pulled things like tight.
Yep, and then it came Arctic Warfare, and I was like, I wanna do it. I screwed it up. I was like, holy shit, I missed like something. Like it really felt like I missed something, and then I watched it on YouTube and realized, god damn, that's so fucking cool with architect and stuff. So, and I was like, okay, fuck it. I have to. My next goal for the event afterwards, which I think is Operation Cube Plus, if I remember
Let
correctly.
me check really quick.
Was it
No,
Cube
it was Deep
Plus?
Dive.
Oh yeah,
Then it
Deep
was
Dive.
Cube Plus.
Yeah, right. I thought to myself, okay, no matter how long it takes for me, I will make it so that I can finish Deep Dive on my own. And I did. And it's one of the best things ever. Like,
Yeah,
the moment you clear your first large story event,
I will totally
it's
give
some of the best.
Arctic Warfare the, like, I've mentioned it before. I'll definitely give Arctic Warfare the award for being the best tuned event. Like, never doing Arctic Warfare did I feel like I was completely and utterly overwhelmed, except for the last 2 stages. And that's because I could tell, like, from my own gameplay, I was slacking off a bit. Like, I was able to tell, like, oh, yeah, well, maybe I should just, like, play the game a bit more and a bit better. So yeah.
Though Arctic had like
But
some
even
issues, I think, in design.
even then, I was able to clear 3-3 on my first attempt, first try. And I was able to clear the 3-4 in, it lists 14 attempts. I don't think I ran it multiple times, so it took me a while, but after throwing everything at it for a while, I got it. And it wasn't to the point where it was like really frustrating, which pretty much every other time afterwards that I had a wall in front of me in this game, it's felt really frustrating because you could tell that someone was just pumping the numbers up for
which
getting
is
like
why, in all honesty, the new approach with Isomo, the easy mode, like,
Yeah.
my god, I fucking love it.
That is
like,
so
it's not
good.
really that I'm not against like the hard challenges. It's just that with the easy mode, you still have your thinking processes. Like, you still have to think about how you approach stuff.
yeah.
But you don't have to worry about your echelons getting shredded, for example.
Yeah. I mean,
And I think one of the things that they did insanely good, that is something I didn't expect, is the hard mode in Isoma is not just a CE bloat. They
Yes.
actually different the
Yes.
how you have to clear the map, etc. And that's a huge plus for me.
yes, the fucking EX. I cleared Isomare flat out only in EX. And never once did I feel like the game was unfair. Like,
Yep.
it was the first time since Arctic Warfare that I had a roadblock and it did not feel artificial. Like, it felt like
Yep,
I was
I-
genuinely just having the wrong approach to a map, or just missing a map. Like, I wasn't really quite getting a map gimmick or whatever. Which, having all those extra, like, of course, having all those extra mechanics that have come in over time helps so much. Like, I
Yep.
like to shit on a lot of the mechanics that the game over time has introduced. Like, force shields, the way they're implemented is just kind of weak. They're a great idea, absolutely love them. Just, again, kind of weak idea. I do like that, for example, like, force shields on Dolls were later changed, like on MP5 and Thompson.
Were they?
Yeah, they were changed. They were mechanically changed to not just be a guaranteed miss or whatever, or I don't even know how they mechanically worked before, but like, once Continuing Turbulence came around with HOCs and everything, once HOCs came around, they were changed into being fully charged force shields. They are actually just 100% force shields now. So they also, I don't know if they actually, that would actually be an interesting thing to go and like look and find out if they can be broken by enemy HOCs. But that would require such a good timing. I don't think I could do that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, with all those, like, as much as I like to shit on them, all those new mechanics just really do well at just giving enough of a variety to the point where CE bloating isn't as much of a problem anymore, like was seen with Isomere's EX mode. Because in Continuum Turbulence, there was a lot of missions where it was just like,
I think
can I just...
for me it wasn't nearly as bad because at the point of Continuum Turbulence I obviously had like everything I needed.
No, yeah,
like,
same.
so for me it's like, okay, never mind, I just have to change the composition and I'm good.
But me being the guy I am, I hate meta slavery. So, of course, I only ran like 1 or 2 RFHGs into Continuum Turbulence, one of which was Exodia. So, yeah. That does not...
Yep.
That just doesn't do well in Continuum Turbulence.
I'm
with,
like
especially
the,
later on, how much KCCO there is.
Oh yeah.
It just
I think
doesn't work, man.
one of the things that I prefer is just taking the meta approaches and then just slightly skewing them to my likings.
Yeah, that's pretty
Like,
much
for example,
the
I
approach I've been taking. Because like
Yeah.
I realized after Continuum Turbulence, like, okay, I just have to do something to properly work this out. I have to improve my game sense, all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, like you have to just understand like why. The best way to describe it is you basically have to understand why certain titles are being used,
yeah,
and then you can exchange them with other titles that can also do the same job.
yeah, pretty much. Like just similar again to Arknights. Just see the character and recognize like their archetype, like the role they fulfill, they can fulfill. Like of course you have, for example, you have your off tanks and you have your evasion. You have your evasion SMGs. But again, and you also, for example, within off tanks, you have your self buffs and your grenadiers again, which is the same for ARs.
Also...
You have your rate of fire ARs, you have your self buff ARs, you have your knight ARs, you have your grenadiers.
Yep, and then there's your special nutcases like ADS.
Yes.
But one of the things I want to talk about is Grape, because kind of fuck Grape.
Yeah, fuck Grape.
The issue with Grape, honestly, is her niche is hers and her alone.
Yeah.
There's no other title that can do what she can do.
Yeah.
And that's an issue, because it's like certain times you have just like get Grape or get fucked, and that's not good.
It's another issue that's like, of course, this is something I already mentioned earlier with Theater, where basically for core A it's have an M200 or get fucked. Unless you're like full Dalao and can choose whatever the fuck you want.
I think like with M200 at least M200 is like, she has a niche and she's good at it, but you're not entirely lost if you don't have M200.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Again,
like, if you see it like this, you only need M200 absolutely, or really mostly, for the Ulan in Core 8 Theater, and that's like such a specific
that's pretty much
case
it.
where I'm like, okay, whatever.
But even then, I think like those super specific cases are something that can be designed around.
Yep.
So it's like, but...
And it also reminds me...
This is another thing that's been like a super high profile case in Arknights recently, with the event that ended like yesterday. Again, I mentioned earlier, the Twilight of Volumanda. Where...
Yesterday being November 11, 2020, by the way, in case you have no idea when.
Yeah. The one that just ended like recently. You needed Ea Fiala pretty much, like she was pretty much a must-have for any of the EX stages, like especially the later ones, because you just can't deal that much damage with any other operators in the time frame you need.
Yep. Well, it reminds me.
It's so stupid.
One thing I really like about GFL when it comes to unique skills, they are most of the time actually really good balanced. Like ADS skills, for example, the Massive Sun, your PA15, what else is there? Obviously P90, like all those skills, they're unique, but they're never really game breaking. Like I never feel like I must use P90. I just use it because I like it.
That's something that the game has been getting so fucking good at over time. Like they started around like, I think, Deep Dive doing this. where they just
Yeah,
start
I
like
think it's-
at the start with the base set. If you look at the base set, you will see that pretty much every doll, like all the dolls, share like the same, what feels like 5 skills.
yeah,
And
increase round
with
point,
rarity,
increase evasion, or
the
whatever.
stats just get better for the skills. Like Sop has a 8 times grenade at level 10, and 416 has a 15 times grenade at level 10.
Yep.
But over time, they changed it into not just into more that like lower rarity doll skills are just more straightforward, while higher rarity skills just get more mechanically involved, which is such a cool way of handling this, because especially with mods coming in around that time, it gave them the opportunity to also, of course, which is what mods are for, to update dolls that have gotten left behind due to this, give them a higher rarity, and as such, give them a more complex skill, which usually today you will find new 5-star, like a new 5-star Grenadier that comes out is probably gonna have a skill similar to Sop's, for example, for Sop's mod.
Yeah, like let's take for example K11.
Yeah, exactly.
Her skill is basically that she throws grenades based on a dummy link account, and like obviously a 5 grenade throw with a short cooldown as hers, it's crazy good. But then you realize the drawbacks, like if she gets into certain scenarios where you lose the links, like her damage,
you're also gonna lose firepower.
Fucking it crashes so hard.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like one of the things I really like about in general the designs is 5-star T-Dolls, they're obviously better than 4-star T-Dolls, but it doesn't feel like a straight upgrade as in like increase in number.
Yeah, the stat lines are pretty much flat in this game.
Yep, but
like
it feels a lot more like you can utilize certain skills much better.
Yeah.
Or that is refined versions of skills.
Like that's the thing. You're more, the more you play, the more incentivized you are to use higher rarity dolls, because you know how to play the game better, so you can utilize that mechanical, like the mechanical involvement that they give you. You can utilize that really well, and that will give you an advantage. As like how you said with K11, a player that can't keep their K11 alive won't get much out of her skill.
Yeah, and also it depends also on like how you learn about like skill timings, etc.
Yeah.
And one thing I've also really come to enjoy is the craziness of the skills has like this appeal of like, holy shit, I want to try this out.
Yeah.
Like best example is obviously since I've talked about it a lot, ADS, her ability to throw like stun grenades basically. Like it's just like, okay, how can I build a team around this certain 5-star or certain T-Doll? And that's like a big appeal for me, just for like casual fun and just having all kinds of ideas for team compositions.
Yeah, like especially handguns have like seen such a huge increase with this. Like I think the first like handgun to really break the mold there is Contender. And afterwards, like pretty much every handgun afterwards that has been like released after Contender has been super mechanically involved. Because afterwards, the next handgun afterwards is PX4 Storm, like the next 5-star. And then it's P22, and then HS2000 and everything. And then we have the absolute abomination that is C93.
Oh, which one was that?
The one that was released recently with a recent patch. The Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh god, do I have her? I have no idea.
You probably don't. She's Contender tier. Here, this was her skill. The really spicy
Oh no, I
one.
don't have her. Okay, yeah, that's the one. Maybe I should build for her.
Also Python, who for some reason is ID 4?
Yes, I don't think
Why
I have
doesn't
her.
Python have ID 4? But yeah, Python.
Oh, I have any.
Python is another one of those.
To be honest, no one knows what the ideas mean. Probably. Like,
IDs are
probably
usually
Nick has no idea.
IDs are meant to be like just sequential. like with how TDOTs have been released, but Python just kind of breaks the ranks for some reason. She's just number 4.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't have her.
Yeah, I don't have Python either.
No,
It's dumb. But yeah, anyways, I don't even know how we got on that tangent. Biggest challenge, right? I haven't even said mine yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest challenge, biggest challenge for me was an honorable mention again goes to Arctic Warfare, because that was the first time where I really felt very challenged by the game, but I still could clear it quite easy, with my own wits, until Isomer came around. Another honorable mention goes to Cube Plus, the last stage, because holy shit, the RNG on Ouroboros was so fucking stupid to find her, because this wasn't Cube Plus. In the original Cube, you had to clear that stage 14 times.
Jesus, what a fuck.
Yeah, you had to clear that 14 times for the stage to be considered cleared, so it was an absolute nightmare having to hunt her down 4 times. You would have to... It was mostly an exercise in RNG and pattern recognition to find out how the AI behaves and where she spawned and where she's moving and hunting her down with that. But good lord, when you when someone in the community has to make a tool where you input the nodes that are captured at the beginning and then the nodes that are captured in the second return, that tells you then where Ouroboros is. Yikes. when you have someone make specifically a web tool to clear your stage, not a guide, a tool, you've probably fucked up. But yeah, my actual biggest challenge is by far the worst goddamn stage this game has ever seen. I thought that the final stage in the Gunslinger Girl collab did overtake it, but no, after a bit of more thinking, fuck Pioneer EX so much. This was the second or third stage, the third or second EX stage in the Valhalla collab.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. I never did it.
It is so fucking bad. Oh my god. I genuinely, I have never done so many active attempts at a map in this entire game. Not even for even for farming, I've done 200 attempts, I think, on another map on the game, but I wouldn't count farming as active attempts, so it was, yeah, it's active attempts at clearing a map for the first time. Because it was at the point where, they introduced Paradeus units with the Valhalla collab, because on older servers it happened after Continuum Turbulence. But we got it, before Singularity even.
Yep, I think we got it.
So,
really
while they didn't have force shields, or at least not fully charged force shields, having Doppels and Rotoleros at that point, while I did start to get my first few echelons to level 100, but I didn't have everyone there yet. So when your only real option for killing Doppels is Exodia, that becomes an issue pretty quickly. Yeah. And when you don't have a parachute ferry you can use, which I also didn't have, but I don't think you could even use on that map, you have 3 fronts you have to defend against Doppels, and you have a supply line to keep alive through one of those fronts. That's insanely frustrating, especially with how overtuned these enemies were. In the main event, the main story, they were pretty easy to deal with the Paradeus units. But in the X, they were brutal. So, yeah. I have PTSD from that map, genuinely. There's a reason I can remember its name so well. And that's just because it has caused me so much goddamn strife. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I'm glad I don't do it.
Yeah, you should.
In general, I just avoid EX stages unless I have the time for
I mean,
it.
with Isomer, I just
Just-
cleared on EX, like I said earlier.
Yeah,
Because, again, it's tuned really well now that they actually have the mechanics to make a fun and challenging map without just bloating the enemies. Unlike
yeah,
the GSG
speaking of,
collab.
I think the issue for me with Isomer and the EX stages wasn't really an issue with the stages itself. It was just me getting Aegis 2000 from the event. And obviously the first thing I want to do is just try her out and just completely try as best as I could. And there was like one of the stages had like a really nice array of Rodolero, Strelets and zombies, which could you all attack of the same team in the first turn. And I purchased P90, SMG, AR, handgun team in there, and just kept doing the map over and over and over and over and over. So I just didn't have time because I was
Yeah,
busy
just
trying
messing
stuff.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's a valid way to do it as well. You're not gonna have a lot of
And I
opportunity
honestly-
to clear those maps once the event is gone.
exactly. Plus, again, it's just a nice variety of enemies was there. Like when I'm like, okay, these are the enemies that I want to use against, or that's a team I want to use against those type of enemies, so I might as well try it out here. Plus, I've already read the story at the point, like because I finished the campaign.
Mm.
So there wasn't really an incentive
Yeah,
for me
to
to
do
do
EX.
the rest.
Except for probably like the extra rewards, but not everyone cares about those, unlike me.
Yeah, I barely care about those. Like most of the good rewards are in normal
Yeah,
mode.
yeah.
That's just good stuff.
I mean, you have things like the elite medals and a bunch of exclusive furniture.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm
but,
pretty sure the
I can fix
bike-
up other stuff.
The bike was EX exclusive, right?
No, the bike was not exclusive.
Okay, but the Barracuda node was. Then was the node.
That one probably is, yeah.
And then...
But yeah,
Wait, was it actually?
Beak's
I
bike was not
think-
exclusive.
No, I think it was Barracuda was the normal reward for the last stage. And then the EX, or the elite medal, was the one for the EX stage. I think
Yeah,
that's what
like I
it was.
said. Oh yeah, but in general it's like,
Just basically having been around from the start, I think that just makes me more predisposed to like being that type of completionist. Because I like have all the spicy shit from the beginning, so like my 5-7. But anyways, more. Next question. My god, this has been going really
oh my
well.
gosh, we are bad at this. Oh good at this.
Our favorite op features, so like meta features that have been added throughout the operations. What would you say is yours?
It's honestly a hard question actually, but if I had to say, like, mods.
Mods? Really?
Mods.
Okay, I mean
mods.
they have
I was
bring a lot
considering-
to the table.
Yeah, I was considering hogs at first, but the issue of hog is, my god, they eat so much resources
Yeah.
that I don't want to use them
For-
most of the time, and that's kind of like as I already explained
Really?
with the
I've never had.
with the whole
I'm
test.
sorry.
Yeah, with the testing out of my team in Isoma, like I'm the type of person who gets like from 50 to 1,000 resources down to 2,000 in a single day with testing.
I don't test that much. I don't.
And
I don't
hogs
actively play
would
that much.
just-
I
Eat up. Yeah, like hog is basically like, imagine your current Tidor resource consumption and double it instantly. That's kind of how much hogs take.
interesting. I never really like notice or paid attention to how much resources hogs take because I generally don't have that much issues with my running resource cost. Because I don't play that a lot. I don't play a lot actively.
Yeah,
I mostly just do
the
meta
type of-
stuff when there's no event going on, and if there's an event going on, I'll do my daily farming and be done with it.
Yeah,
So usually, like, unless I somehow manage to get down to fucking 400 rations, I don't really pay much attention to my resource usage.
That's kind of how I finished Continuum Turbulence at around 1000 ammo.
Yeah, I usually at the end of usually at the end of an op, I'm also pretty low on either one resource, usually manpower.
Yep.
But for me, I see mods. I can definitely see mods because they add just so much shit. Like you get
like one of the
for
big
each
mods
like
from
mods are something that can, for one, be consistently expanded over time, which is always a good thing. You get, again, dolls that were previously left behind or not in the case of 6-star mods, unlike NTW.
Yeah, I think like one of the things about mods is, as already mentioned, with the skill design.
Yeah.
That translates over to mods. Like that's really fucking
You
fun.
always like you get
And-
upgraded skills. You get like old skills brought up to the level of modern skills. You get a new skin for free. You get exclusive equipment. You get 4 new bits of story for each doll. There's a lot to have with mods. They add a huge amount of content. As much grinding as there
speaking
is.
about the 5-star dolls and their mods is, as long as Miko doesn't screw up with it, I'm completely fine with it because they just feel like extra, like you're just like, that was like so fucking
At
good to
least don't
have.
give them an extra.
But they don't feel mandatory. That's the kind of thing that I enjoy about them. Like,
Yeah.
never once did I feel like I won just because of MTW20 mod.
Fair.
But I definitely felt like, holy shit, she is useful. Like,
Yeah, that's definitely something
yeah,
we
that's
have
the thing
with
about balancing.
NGW and Calico. I am kind of concerned about 416 though coming up.
Yeah,
I've heard that her performance
Calico,
actually
in my
is
opinion, was is crazy good. Like,
Calico's
Calico
mod
is
3
like,
is really fucking good.
yeah, I mean, she's the best way to describe Calico is you can imagine her almost like a taunt fairy in terms of like impact.
Yeah, she's enabled me to do 10-4 E farming without like 3-star bombardment fairy, which is usually a solid prerequisite because
I think,
of the
like,
damage boost that she gives. But with Calico mod, I don't need that damage boost because I get so much more time.
Yep. It's generally, I think, like, so far the 5-star mods are pretty fine by me because they're just crazy over the top, and what they essentially do is not allow you to do things you couldn't do otherwise, but rather ease up the requirements needed to do those things. So it's basically like if you don't have the perfect
They're enablers.
RFHG team, yeah, for example, yeah, that's it. That's all they do,
Yeah.
and I hope they stay that way.
Yeah, I just feel like they're just kind of sloppily designed. Aside from like actual bugs or whatever, design bugs, like in-game UI bugs or whatever, I just feel like the idea of a 6-star doesn't fit the rarity system that's established in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a necessary evil way because you can't just go
And you
5-star
can-
to 5-star.
I would say you can just straight up go to extra if you really want to add another star, which doesn't really
but
work
then you
in my.
remove the extra.
Like the thing is, in my
then you
opinion,
remove.
you don't have to add a star at all because you have 2 stars which go to 4-star, you have 3 stars which go to 4-star, which is just an increase
No,
of 1,
wait, yeah, it does.
right? And you have then 4
Isn't 3-star
stars
to-
who only go to 5-star. So
Oh, yeah,
there's
you're
like
right,
that
yeah.
one cap. They never go like over that, even though like you could totally have 2 stars going to 4 stars, 3 stars going to 5 stars.
I mean, while I would agree with the idea of not having 6 stars but something else, I would probably not use extra because extra should be reserved to collab dolls. So I would kind of find a different term for it.
I mean, just in the thing is with extras, you have a very like the point of having 6 stars is for there to be a very like distinct rarity that is over 5 stars, which we already have. It's called extras and it's 1 star.
Well, extra again is
I get that
collaboration
it's like
titles,
it's
so
been previously relegated to collab units. But at the same time, you have the, like, for example, you also have like the mythical beasts that are representative of each of the rarities. And for like for 5 stars for legendary, you have the fucking phoenix, and then for extras you have a unicorn. That just works. It just works as the step of. I get that it's like reserved for collab characters and everything, but I still think that it would work just as well if you also put 5-star mods in there, because from the way that it's framed and everything. Aside from the fact that every other member of the rarity is a collab doll, it just works as the step above 5-star.
Yep, that's basically the idea works. I would just not go directly into extra, but have like a different kind of rarity for 6-star. That isn't 6-star.
That isn't 6-star.
Smart.
I mean, even if you just go the HOC way and turn the stars red, I'd be good with that, because at that point you also have like the color change, which I'm not a fan of either, because at that point they're literally just mimicking Arknights, because Arknights also have like that kind of orange with a bit of a green tinge for their 6 stars, as that like their main calling card or their main motif color. And they're also 6 stars as the highest rarity. So, yeah. Thanks, Sunborn. Thanks, Mika.
But in all honesty, I think...
so, just keeping them yellow and maybe turning the stars red, which, like, in the same color as the, like, mod sign, I think that could work.
What also could work is keeping the stars on the same color as normal and just changing the
border?
RF, no, not the border, but the logo sign of the HG or SMG or RF or whatever you have to the orange.
Yeah.
That's enough
that could
to
work.
indicate.
I could see that working. But anyways, that was just your favorite mechanic.
Yep.
Time for mine, because I kind of want to get this moving on. It's actually a bit of a split for me between the map features introduced by Arctic Warfare, because they've laid the groundwork for pretty much everything that we have now, even with the interactive bits that were introduced in Deep Dive, and then the second set just now in Isomer. I feel like none of those would really work nearly as well without the map features, like the one-ways, the timed helipads, all that kind of shit that we got in Arctic Warfare. None of those would work nearly as well. Like, they're a foundational piece of the game's level design. And that is something that I feel is a bit understated. And then I have to give it... I do agree that mods are fantastic, but the added, like, the idea of HOCs, especially with how they're later then incorporated with Coalition, like with Protocol, fucking PA. I really like that. Because, again, HOCs are another, like, they're a completely separate kind of meta management that still entangles really well with the main gameplay. And it's just something, like, it's just on its side. I've been doing HOCs on a side. I've never been actively doing anything for HOCs aside from, like, assembling chipsets, but you'll have to do that at some point anyways.
Yeah, your mini Tetris.
Yeah. So, I just feel like HOCs, during the metagame, they're kind of there. It's something you can constantly work on and feel like you're progressing really well, even if slowly. And it's something fulfilling that the impact of which you can very real, like the impact of which is very, very real to your gameplay. Because good lord.
Yep. I think, like, with HOC, I didn't pick them. They would be my second choice after mod, is purely because of how much playtesting I do.
Yeah.
and with things
they're pretty hungry.
it's
Apparently,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, I did check
Yep.
the cost. They are pretty hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like kind of a small downside,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
again, if you know what you're doing,
you
it's
do
fine.
quite literally get the bang for your buck, though.
Oh yeah,
They are as expensive as an entire echelon, if not a tad more. But you definitely get out of that. Like, you do get out of that what you need from them. Especially because they can cover multiple echelons at the same time. That's something else you have to remember. And you can have multiple ones supporting one echelon at a time. There are so many gameplay possibilities with the HOCs.
That's also another thing about HOC is, in terms of playtesting, at the moment where I mostly use them, or where I could have tested them and haven't played in a while, or haven't played actively in a while, is HOCs had 0 targets to test out on.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to test out your HOCs at the moment. I think Continuum Turbulence is in campaign now, so now I can use them to test them out.
Yeah.
But previously I was like, I don't really use them.
Yeah, that is definitely another thing. Like, there's not really much incentive to use them in most of the game's content, and the running content. Like, there was a bit in Isomare, but not really that much either. There were like 2 or 3 maps with heavy heliports, I think. Everything else was without them. And I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that Shadow Connection tries to make up for that a bit, from what I've heard. So at least that's something. But yeah, without Continuum Turbulence in campaign, it's been pretty cold down back in the garage. So yeah, they've been sitting still for a bit. But I still think that the way that they just append another type of metagame that meshes so well in gameplay with the main metagame of Echelon and Dull Management, I think, and the way that it's always expandable with new units, I think that just puts them just that little bit more above mods. Even though I would definitely say that mods are more important, I would say that I enjoy HOCs more. Because they're a change of pace, right? There's something there's something different than Dulls. And the way that they're implemented and they mesh with Dull Management and everything, and again, especially in actual gameplay, I think that just gives them that little bit more kick and more spice, basically.
Definitely, like, they have a bigger impact on the gameplay than mods have.
Yeah.
Where mods are like, basically, if you're into gameplay stuff, you're probably going to appreciate HOCs a lot more because of like the big change up they give, and also how well they balance. Like, the only noticeable exception is BGM because of her high PS.
But even there, like, you have archetypes, right? You have your ATGM or your anti-tank missiles. You have your mortars as anti-infantry, and then the AGLs in the middle, like, to be a bit of a compromise between both, which just kind of makes them suck. But I still stand AGM. But yeah, there's not a lot of variety with HOCs yet, but I do think that especially once coalition units come in, like, we have, like, I think 3 of the SF units are able to be HOCs.
Nice.
Which for one, Destroyer, I think Architect, and I think Dreamer as well. I'm not sure. I know Architect and Destroyer for a fact, and I also think Dreamer, but I think Dreamer can be both. I'm not sure.
Honestly, I haven't looked up in the coalition stuff. I let it wait for Ian to do it.
Yeah, I just went ahead and played on Kara a bit, so yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. Right, whereas mods are great if you're like more into testing out certain T-Dolls and certain compositions, because they just upgrade your favorite T-Dolls. For example, like, assuming you have M14 as your favorite T-Doll, and just a mod, and it's just like, oh god, shit's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's especially with story mods, because with the dolls that the story follows, of course, a lot of people like them most because they're the ones that have the most characterization because they're actively built through the story. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself with Sop, but Sop is like done so well with her mod. I have a confession to make. I have not read a single mod story.
You should.
I know I should.
Yeah,
I really know I should. But even
especially
then,
45 sec.
yeah.
Damn.
But even then, I really like how the mods interweave with stories and how they just tell the character's story better. Like, even further. They go further from the already, like, really good character designs that the game already has, and they go further and then do some additional storytelling through the character design. And that's something that you see so rarely with games like these. Especially if you talk, again, about juggernauts like Arknights or other games like Azur Lane as well. They are just kind of afraid to change up their character designs. With Arknights, the biggest changes are when you E2 a character. Of course, you have skins, duh, but when you E2 your character, they get a completely new main artwork. But usually that just goes into the like core concept of the character. It showcases the animal that they're modeled after in like a really flashy style. And usually it just gives some extra fan service. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's not a costume change, but rather a pose and background change. Yeah. It turns your PNG into a good illustration.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think there are a few operators that where the base is at least can compete with the E2 art. For example, Deep Color, I think looks really good, and like she's my favorite operator by far in general. She looks really good with both her skins, like with both the normal and her E2 skin. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked into Arknights here. Let's for this episode try and stay on GFL a bit more. So anyways, yeah, next question. We're still on these. Can you believe it? This is one you posted. Favorite team composition. So, how do you like your meta slavery?
Ah, it's fun. Honestly, my favorite team compositions are RFRG and SMGAR, but mostly RFRG or P90 teams, basically.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously. But in all honesty, I think RFRG is just a lot of fun because I like the bang noise, especially since the sound update. My god.
Yeah, RFHGs are satisfying to use.
Yeah, like it's just super satisfying just to see the enemies fall down one by one. And AR SMG has like, especially recently the AR stuff they've got, or the SMG stuff they've gotten is like there's so much cool stuff.
Yeah, there's so much cool shit you can do with more recent guns.
Yeah. Whereas like MGSG has the main issue where it's basically like if you don't have a first volley skin, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're pretty much fucked. Unless you have SAT, at which point you might have a second shot.
No, I mean not even in this case. I mean more like in the case of being picked in the first place. There's literally no reason to pick anything that isn't a first volley, because MGSG teams are designed to finish in the first volley.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them.
And it's
not all of them. You have I mean, she's a bad example because it's been pretty much agreed upon that that she will never see any use. But Claes, for example, or you have like sustained shooters like MG3. Was it MG3 or MG4? Who literally have a meme about them in the game. To not do first volley kills. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that if you have a SAT, especially if you have a SAT, you can plan around your MGSG taking on further down the line than a single volley kill, especially if you can pair Jill in there as well. Like usually what
Yeah,
like
but even-
for the longest time my setup was Alma, MG5, Jill with a Brantini, SAT-8 and AA-12. That's a relatively low damage ARS or SGMG, but they still pull through because even if they didn't finish in the first burst, by the second by the time of the second burst, they would be buffed by the Brantini, which also means that Alma gets her buffed skill, which just shreds everything down.
Yeah, so definitely on the fun side at times. I just think the balancing between second volley and first volley skill MGs could be much better.
Yeah.
Because at that moment it's just like...
I'll be the first to admit.
oh,
I'll
hey,
be the first to
it's-
admit that SGMGs are flawed to all hell and back, and they hugely need to buff MGs to...
And they also need to... yeah, they should also definitely make more options for them to be
Yeah.
used. Because at the moment I'm like, yeah, well, just... I
At the
don't know,
moment, there's
fucking
either too
QBU and then-
much, like just the HP are too high, and there's too many units for your HP, like your mobs, your Strelet mobs or whatever, or there's just too much, like they're just too chunky. They're like your duppers.
Yeah, that's a good example. It's kind of like the issue of like, where do you even use
Yeah.
them most
Yeah.
of the time?
For me, my like,
Obviously you have Judge, but Judge is like a brick wall, not a solution.
yeah, it's. I mean, it is the primary
She knows
solution to the brick wall problem, but it's not a very elegant one.
Yeah,
And it's kind of the point where it's so niche that you can also again just ask yourself, like, what's the fucking point?
yeah. Also, speaking of team composition, one thing I should note is most of my teams, or pretty much all of them, have a handgun in it, even on day,
Yeah.
just because I like the skills.
Yeah. Well, for me,
And
my personal favorite is it's actually kind of a close call, but I just like the oomph of SGMGs, but I still think I would put AR SMGs above, because there's, again, like you said, there is so insanely much versatility to be had with AR SMGs, especially if you like throw an HG in there as well. There is so much hijinks and shenanigans to be had with AR SMGs, because there are so many just so many ways you can play these strategies out. You have your, like, for example, for me, I have my Echelon 1, which has been, like, which I've prized a lot. Like, it's been effectively the same since the beginning. Just a few dolls switching out here and there, because, like, some other new ones have come out and they're just kind of better. Or for Sop, for example, she had to go out because I just like using the AR team as an Echelon. But, like, in idea, they've stayed the same ever since launch, and it's a 3 Grenadier Echelon with a buffing handgun and a single SMG tank as a plus formation.
Yep.
Which is
what?
is so, like, if you share that with, like, a fucking anyone, really, they'll tell you, what the fuck are you doing, dude? But it works so well. It just works for me. I know it's just the same kind of, what the fuck are you doing? But it's the retort, oh yeah, it works for me. But it really does. I love the Echelon. Right now, it's FAL, who I've had since day one, because first purchase bonus, of course. 416, K11, Contender, and P90. And they're just such a fun Echelon to use.
Yeah, I think like it's one of the cool things about SMG AR Echelons is because they're so much fun to use, they're also not in a way designed to like you have your DPS Echelon, your DPS AR SMG, and your Grenadier as AR SMG. It's kind of the main two you have. But inside those two archetypes, you have so much freedom.
Yeah, I do have an AR, like a DPS AR SMG, which is like fully rigged on rate of fire. I have Vector 45 mod, and then AK-12, A-94, and G11 on there.
Oh yeah.
Which is an absolute
damage.
Just once their skills pop, it's just a brick wall of bullets hitting the enemy 50 times over.
I think yeah, one of the things is really with the way AR-SMG teams are balanced, a lot of times you can just find a new T-Doll, you're like, oh hey cool, I kinda wanna try it out, put it into your current team and be done.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or sometimes you just specify like you really want certain T-Dolls to be there. But yeah, it's overall really nicely made in terms of like how much fun you can have with AR-SMG.
Just, again, it fits with the idea of ARs being generalists. There is just so much variety to be had with AR-SMG echelons. And even though I don't like design my own a lot, but like just kind of recently I made my I reworked my Knight AR-SMG, which is a concept that hasn't been like thought of since like Cube Plus.
Knight AR-SMG.
Yeah, Knight AR-SMG.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, there was like the most recent event with the new T-Doll, the red one. I don't remember the name, but something like
the Scarlet Witch one.
Yeah, the Scarlet Witch one. Yeah, like she is a extreme example of an pure Knight SMG.
I haven't checked her actually.
And it attempts. Let me check her.
But like my Knight AR-SMG, which of course I run Koza and 9A91 on there. They're the Knight Queen and Princess, of course. But then it's AK-74U, Uzi, and HS-2000 for Knight AR-SMG. And that's the kind of shit, like, those are dolls you just don't hear a lot about. Like, except for HS-2000. You don't really hear much about these dolls outside of memes. And they're not even like really a shitpost echelon. They're just kind of forgettable in their mechanical, like in their mechanics. But I still really like them, and I think they can just work really well for a Knight AR-SMG, which is an antiquated concept at this point. But I really like it anyway.
It's basically it's PM06. She buffs top left and bottom. Top left, bottom left. 12% damage, accuracy 35%. Her skill has an initial cooldown of 4 seconds. It's level 10. During nighttime, increase invasion by 150% and accuracy by 80% for 10 seconds.
Okay, well, yeah.
She's like basically a Suomi on fucking crack at night. Let's see.
Yeah, even then, like,
she's essentially Suomi plus a accuracy boost of 80%.
Yeah. But even then, like, I mentioned that I have a shitpost echelon, like an echelon specifically to be a meme. That's another AR-SMG. It's MDR, RFB, Ribby, UMP9, and Dorothy. And they still work. They work pretty damn well. And the fact that you can make these kinds of, like, the composition here is also just really neat. You have Dorothy as your main-ish tank. You have UMP9 as a really good tank. Ribby with her AR tiles is really fucking useful. And then RFB and MDR are just solid ARs. They're solid buff ARs.
Yep. I think I also had like some meme compositions
it's a nice meme composition.
I think once I had PA15, ADS, Type 79 I think was her name, M16 and ADS. If you list all of those in, they have all one thing in common. They all stun.
Oh.
The entire echelon,
God,
nothing more to do, just stun everything. Yeah.
It's a stunlock echelon, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's not good, it doesn't really work that well. But against, for example, Stray Lads, it's so much fun because you can just see how everything stops and just nothing moves.
Which does bring us to our next bit, like the perils of our enemies. Which is our favorite ones? Our favorite enemy. Let's kick up the spoiler list.
I mean, to be fair, we've already spoiled a lot, but...
I mean, yeah, but...
yeah.
Actual spoilers for future content list. aka the enemy index.
What's
your favorite enemy?
Who would have guessed it's a Naito. It's Macaros. Like, holy shit, I love her.
Fair.
Not only story-wise, her theatrical approach, etc. is super fun, but also her skill, rally the cards.
I don't think I ever actually fought Macaros.
Yeah, she's completely...
Like, she's completely avoidable, right?
Yeah, 100%. You have to actually go to her to fight her. Basically what Rally the Kites does is, I think she fires a few laser, or was it? If I remember correctly, she does like some damage stuff, which I don't entirely remember. So Nemogen like locks you into your stuff and like captures the Tito and makes like the plus shape where damage comes out.
Yeah, Nemogen is the one you can't avoid, right? I think you can't avoid Nemogen.
You can't avoid her completely. Like, one Tito is going to be hit definitely. The rest just has to split up accordingly.
Yeah.
Rally the Cult is, I think it was laser something that are being shot, and at the same time she summons like multiple doppels, etc., and just rushes to you with them. It's so much fun because like every time you fight against her, and she activates a skill, your T-rolls are being put to the test, but it never felt unfair.
Yeah.
Like,
regarding
fights are super fun.
Regarding bosses, I do have to say that I would definitely put Black Naitos up there, because they're just really fun fights overall, and they're not too hard. But thinking about like a full-on favorite enemy is super hard. It's like, again, Black Naitos are again just a really fun fight. I feel like Naito White is also a fun fight, but in Continuing Turbulence, their fight was like kind of overtuned. It was like on the like it was like the first fight that like kind of started to go into the territory of being a bit overtuned. So it just kind of ended up being like, can I just like just let me clear the map, please? Whereas with Black Ones, I didn't have that problem at all. It was just a really fun fight to clear out. But
yeah, I think I might be able to find a clip.
Other than that, I feel like my favorite enemies, like even when we like just talk about designs or whatever, I think it's probably gonna have to be like either Nimium, the SF armored snipers, or Dragoons. I really like Dragoons.
Oh yeah.
I mean, of course, there's also the meme answer Diner Gates, but that's obvious, too obvious. But let us now, to finish things off, talk about our favorite star beat.
Right. So
I will leave, because you already probably already know my answer. I will leave you the answer on this one first.
All right. It's the gunpoint scene in Continuing Turbulence when Jäger catches up with Ange. Like that scene, like whoa,
yeah, yeah, that is a good scene. The chase with Jäger.
Yeah, it's like the emotional build up with it, how much it humanizes Jäger, the entire fucking stuff with like how much you realize, holy shit, we suck as people actually. And then the extreme intensity of the scene where you're like, god damn, that shit is intense.
Yeah, it's definitely a standout scene from the game overall, from the story at all.
Yeah, like, I love it.
Of itself. It's intense. It does get pretty fucking sweaty. But for me, again, I think you probably know this answer already. I'll let you guess.
I would say the ending of Isomo.
Yes, the ending of Isomer, the last story bit, because, good lord, I have never experienced such a, like, overall in media as a whole, both personally and for the characters themselves and for the story as a whole, I have never experienced such a such an intense and such a well-fitting emotional payoff overall.
Yeah, like that was so fucking worth it. It was one of the best parts ever.
It is so fucking well done, because even though I like at times I have a bit of a suspension of disbelief problem with GFL's story, where at some points I just get like kind of disconnected from the story, where I still like experience it and follow it, but like doesn't really hit. It just kind of happens in front of my eyes. It just unravels, and I read it, and it's like, oh yeah, neat, okay, yeah. But all of that is just condensed into one, like all of that, and along with all the stuff where I'm actually able to really stick with the story, is then condensed into this one moment where things just, like the switch just flicks and everything just clicks, and you're just like, holy shit, these characters have been through so much.
Yep.
And at that point, like with that that reunification is so fucking gratifying. Because I've said this quite a bit before. I gotta talk to you about this a lot, but I have never once cried at a story or about any piece of media. That was the first time. Like, if
I actually also haven't cried much in JFL. The only exception is the 45 mod story. Like, my god, that hits like a fucking
if I
clock.
hadn't been streaming when I finished, like you can on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/thatbisa, I have clipped me finishing Isomer. I would not have been able to keep my composure if I hadn't been streaming. And on stream, you can hear the exact moment that I crack open. And
Yep.
the fact that, again, this was I've usually, for my entire life, I've prided myself in not having much of an emotional response, but over the last few years, that's been slowly like creeping in on me. The fact that I actually do have an emotional response now, and that was like the first time where it like really fucking took me. And
yeah, like it's crazy.
That is like once more, it's just GFL being a first for me, and that something like that is huge. Especially given the again the framing of everything, the whole it's all like the aftermath of this huge ordeal.
Exactly, it's kind
and
of,
there's been so much time for these characters, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, what? Like at that point, with like during the finale of Isomer, doing the climax, you're like, holy shit, how blind are they? How, like, you're trying to image how is this all going down in a way that they haven't made contact yet, and then on that last story scene, it all fucking connects. It all comes again. It all just comes together so well, and it just fucking sticks the landing.
Yep, it's great. I think like it's like the one thing about GFL in general is really good is when the story beats hit, they really hit.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, maybe that's the reason why I am so impressed by the Jaeger scene, because the entire momentum of Continuum Turbulence is insane. Like the moment it begins, all the way to the end, it's just intense and great and stuff, and all that good stuff, because it cashes out so much on Singularity that by the point you get to the Jaeger scene, you're kind of already emotionally exhausted. So when that adds on top of that, where you're like, holy fuck, I actually really care about Jaeger now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like the writing level on Continuum Turbulence and character writing is so fucking good.
I'll definitely give Continuum Turbulence that. I know I shat on it a bit earlier, but
yeah,
it like the way it handles the story isn't the most elegant, but the actual writing at play is fucking insane. As I said, it's the first time the game managed to make me care about 404. That's a big task. So yeah, that's that execution aside, it's fucking amazingly written. But I feel like Isomer manages the same thing. Like from the onset of Isomer, you know things are going to go sideways hard, and it still catches you off guard by how sideways things go.
Yeah, I think like one of the things I really enjoyed about Isomer was the terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Like, my god,
there
those are
is
visible.
so much back and forth there. It's insane. Like the Pardius attack on the conference. There is so much pushing and pulling there from the different involved factions, and it's all you're all just caught up in it, and you're under basically under K's control. You can't do much. You kind of just say like, "Hey, guys, everything's burning down around you. You can't do anything." But then you realize, "Oh yeah, everything's under control." And then you realize, just 10 minutes after you're being told, "Yeah, you're free to go now. Nothing's under control." It's so much back and forth.
The only issue, and it's not even really a big issue with Isomer, is I think they excel so fucking well with the terrorist attack, etc., that the following stuff, like the ending stuff before the reunion, etc., wasn't as strong as I wished it for it to be.
Yeah.
Like there was still some strong moments. But
basically, every route, like every storyline, has its own big beat. And everything like before and after that is just kind of like, okay. And the terrorist attack is so early. It's so surprisingly early that it catches you off guard and it really fucking hits, even though you expect it. And afterwards, it just kind of has to carry out that chase phase, and because it has to run parallel with Defy's story, which only really starts to get going at that point, it just kind of drags a bit. Just a tad too long.
Yeah, that's kind of like the fun thing that, again, it's like Continuum Turbulence, like, my god, the efficiency of the story is insane. And that's kind of my appeal for it. I think I'm also really excited for Shattered Connection, because I've heard some really good stuff about it.
I haven't heard anything about Shattered Connection, except for the fact that it made me realize just how deep into the hole I am. Down the lore
what
hole.
I've heard is basically Shattered Connection is the world building is going to get much more complex, and there are gigantic plot twists.
Okay. Well, the one thing I've been able to carry away from Shattered Connection is that the shit about Epithelium. Because here's a little bit of a fun fact. This is I'm gonna go into a bit of a thing here. You've seen the GFL iceberg, right? For those watching on YouTube right now, it's probably on screen now. If not, I'm sorry. Future me has forgot to edit it. But basically, on one of the levels, it has Epithelium in there. And a level or two below that is WaveTech, the corporation that IOP cooperate with for HOCs. The one which also has its logo plastered over the fucking intel room, which around hey guys, why is Epithelium over WaveTech? Because for one, that would kind of make sense for WaveTech to either be in the same level or above it, but sure, whatever. Because what I didn't know is that the flower field that is so prominently featured in Shattered Connection was Epithelium. It was meant to be Epithelium flowers.
Oh.
That makes it a much more interesting world-building detail that is much more justified to be on the iceberg. What I thought was the case is that Epithelium was referring to the original working title of Girl of the Bakehouse, which is the VN that precedes Codename Bakery Girl. It's basically Codename Bakery Girl as a VN before Codename Bakery Girl was Codename Bakery Girl. And before Girl of the Bakehouse was Codename Bakery Girl, before Codename Bakery Girl, there was Epithelium, which was the original working title for Bakehouse. So I was like, Why the fuck is this so high up? Why is this not all the way at the bottom? I'm surprised I know this, and now all of you do as well. How? How? The only way, like, the only place to know about this is if you somehow dig up Yuzhong's old blog.
Yep.
It's, anyways. I think that's a pretty good place to call it there. Me going insane over lore. This is something I've been doing a lot over the years, and something I will probably do a lot going onwards from here. So I think this is where we're going to call it. Again, please, the links to social media and all the platforms we are on are down in the description if you are on a platform that does allow for one. Otherwise, follow our Twitter at ReloadingGFL or SapoBeard or NitoDark for our personal accounts, where we will also update people on the podcast. And yeah, we will see you at the latest by the time Shattered Connection comes around.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.